Welcome to Your Voice Heard with Dr. Marilyn Pendleton. Don't forget to click like and subscribe to my channel. Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Your Voice Heard with Dr. Marilyn Pendleton. And here we share that there is hope and happiness after grieving events. And we share some personal stories of grief and how people have recovered, but also there are people who are in the community, in the world, doing the work and supporting individuals who are grievers and help them recover from their events. And so today we have Officer Leo Doyle, and he has been a police officer in Ridley Township, Pennsylvania for the past 14 years and is about to start his 15th. Congratulations. His current rank is patrol corporal. He is a master level therapist and working towards being licensed. Officer Doyle is a therapist that treats first responders and military members via the Viper, which is the Valor with Integrity for Emergency Responders at Miramont Treatment Center, located in Media, Pennsylvania. He also works for MVP Recovery and does outreach for the Leti program, which is the Law Enforcement Treatment Initiative. He is married and the father of a son and daughter who are his world. Welcome. Thank you so much, Officer Doyle. And I just want to thank you for the work that you do in law enforcement and now giving the audience a perspective of the other work that police officers do. And congratulations on moving towards being a therapist. So tell us a little bit about you and how you got into this work.
Yeah, so I always been interested in helping, being a part of the community. And I had a really big passion to want to help children. So I got my bachelor's degree in teaching at East Stroudsburg University. And while doing that, I had an internship with the Delaware County Criminal Investigation Department or Division and or CID. And I was able to like kind of watch, how law enforcement works. And I was really interested in, becoming like a detective that, prosecutes, people that prey on children. So kind of worked my way through, went to the police academy, became a police officer. And I was able to be a part of a task force called the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, where, we're like online predators, try to meet with kids or those that are downloading like child pornography or producing it. So while doing this, I saw there was such a need for the victims. We would go to these homes where we'd hit, with search warrants and, there'd be children in the home where these predators were living. And, I was like, wow, like we really have to get these kids some help. So Ridley Township has a fabulous program where you can further your education. So I was able to further my education and get my master's degree in counseling psychology at Rosemont College while working patrol. It was pretty difficult working 12-hour shifts, but, all towards this goal of one day treating, victims of abuse. And so while that was going on, COVID happened for my internship, which just affected everything, right?
Yeah.
So Miramont Treatment Center had a program where I could get my internship, which takes about a year. It's a pretty extensive program, and where I could get my hours in. And so, being a police officer for as many years that I'd had at that time, probably 13 total at the time, maybe 12 total. I was so overwhelmed with all the drugs and, alcohol abuse that we were dealing with on the street. So I wasn't super interested in it, but I was like, you know what, I got to get my hours in, and this place is taking me, so let me try it. So Miramont has this program where you treat the Viper program, as you mentioned, where we treat first responders and military members that are struggling with both mental health and addiction. And so like I fell in love with it. I was like,
Mm,
whoa, like there's this whole other side of this, job where, people that do the same job as me are struggling. Um, so while at Miramont, I started a nonprofit called Hero, helping emergency responders overcome, where myself and another therapist do like outreach, just trainings on how to decompress after a shift, onboard and healthy resources, kind of discussing what trauma is and what it can do to us. And so I had this idea where, if as a police officer, if we could get people into treatment centers rather than jail, it could like really cause a shift.
yes.
You know, being a police officer and a therapist at a treatment center, I had like kind of I walked into both sides of the world of it. I knew what punitive action was. I didn't really know what treatment was. I kind of just thought it was a revolving door, and there wasn't much teeth behind it. But I was wrong. And so while that's all going on, our governor Shapiro was the attorney general, and he'd come up with this program called Leti, the Law Enforcement Treatment Initiative. And it was very interesting because the whole program is about police officers on the street being able to get people into treatment, whether there's, they could be facing charges, or just someone we're dealing with at a domestic that, picked up again and wants some help. And so I just thought it was a fabulous program. And at around that time, MVP Recovery, which is a fabulous program, Brian Corson is the runs it, reached out to me, and we got together, and he has this program. He picked it up through Delaware County, the Leti program,
Mhm.
and he'd asked me if I could do some outreach to the local police departments. And so myself and Phil Weibel, who's a therapist at MVP, we go around to police departments during roll call, and we just train officers about how you can onboard the Leti program. So what's the Leti program? All right. So the Leti program is
Yes.
it's a 90-day program. It's 30 days inpatient, 60 days of IOP, intensive outpatient. So I'll give you an example. There's a couple of tracks to it. A track one is the least amount. There's no criminal charges. So track one would be you go to a domestic, and dad's picked up again, or let's say the son is struggling with opiates.
Hmm.
Right there on scene, and right there on scene, the police officer can say, hey, if you'd like to go to treatment, we can take you right to this MVP Access Center, and we can get you into treatment. They can get you insurance if you don't have insurance, and we can stop this problem right now. And like, things that are said in like NA and AA rooms, like we train the officers to say, like, can you do the next right thing? And so what that does is the police who go to the same residence over and over and over again with, not always, not always having a great resolution. Sometimes it's just you're tossing your hands up like, hey, can we please avoid having the police come here anymore? We now have a tool. We now have the ability for the police officer to maybe, put out a helping hand, and kind of like
The
merge.
social worker.
Yeah, yeah. So and
Yeah, it's an excellent pathway because not only are you doing law enforcement, you are basically providing social services, but when you factor in, you're also looking with empathy. And it appears that your program it's teaching you empathy. It helps officers look through a lens of empathy, or having a heart with ears, being able to listen and see and connect individuals who are struggling.
Absolutely. I always like using the word compassion too. We police officers, we're not given a ton of resources in the world of how to cope. So our one of the main tools police officers have in order to be effective is the ability to compartmentalize.
Hmm.
And when I do my trainings, I train about how we compartmentalize and keep putting things in a box until it doesn't work. And when it doesn't work is when we see and are struggling.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what I talk about in these trainings. When when we go to and the heroin epidemic, that started a couple of years ago, like hit our county real bad. We were dealing with death and overdoses on a regular basis. We were running out of the Narcan drug, the opiate overdose, reversal drug, and so we would go to these scenes and it would be the 28-year-old passed away in front of us, the 40-year-old passed away in front of us, and to compartmentalize it, a police officer, at least for me, would be okay. Uh, a substance you're not supposed to use is used. We know that it's bad and this caused you to die. Okay, you go into a certain box in my head, and that's how we compartmentalize. And we can do that, and we can do that until it doesn't work. We have an 8-year-old deceased in front of us, and we
Hmm.
can't figure out how to make that right. We can't figure out how to make that child, how to compartmentalize that. And so what during these Leti trainings, and this is one of my main parts of it, is it's about us as police officers. It's
Yes.
about, like, we have to feel that when the 28-year-old deceased addict from an overdose is in front of us, we have to feel that. We don't know the journey of that addict. Did they deal with immense trauma? Were they raped as a 14-year-old and had no one to talk to, fell into a life of drugs, and now are passed away in front of us? If we knew that, it would bring us to our knees, right? But we only get that like little second of seeing needles on the ground and
Yes.
baggies and all that. So this whole thing, well, I should say a big part of this Leti program is not just about helping the people on the street, but it's helping our police like really, really see that people can recover and that the people that are struggling are, human beings that want to be better. So I just think it's such a fabulous program.
It's absolutely, and I always say there's a story to every metric. We have
Absolutely.
spoken previously, and I just shared with you before we came online that my father, who has now is deceased and going on to glory, he struggled with alcohol for many years, recovered. When he died, he had recovered about 30 years. But in his latter days, we would have these transparent conversations. And he was in the military. And one of the things he said was, I wish there was something like what you do now, years ago, because it was very difficult. The things that he experienced in the military, and he accepted the fact that he drank. Part of the things that one of the things that he did was drink to just numb the pain. And it's painful when you're in the military and you see things that you just can't even discuss. When you're a first responder, a police officer, a firefighter, there are things that, and even as a nurse, my first degree is in nursing, you see and experience things that sometimes you're just like, okay, I can't talk about that. And those professions, often those workers use drugs or alcohol to numb the pain. What do you do with that? And I'm so glad that you're equipping them with tools, and that's another thing that I'm passionate about, is equipping people with the tools so that they can heal. Um, I have a question. So, for those who have participated in the program that have struggled with addictions, have they shared stories with you of when they're re-entering their family unit or their job after recovery, or in the recovery process? What does that look like for them, and how do you support them in that?
So in that regard, that's a little bit um, past what the Leti program does for the police on the street. Like your normal police officer, sorry about that, I lost you, wouldn't have, necessary. Once the 90 days is over, it's kind of like the Leti program, at least from the law enforcement perspective, is over. But I know that MVP recovery, like, makes sure that that there's like a helping hand when you're transitioning back.
Mhm,
I know that there's all types of sober living homes that you can enter with like jobs that are businesses that are willing to hire people that are in early recovery, that are just trying to do the next right thing. Um, the the video that I shared with you that the news had done, where I had arrested a female, and this was a track two,
mhm,
where she was facing a threat of arrest. She had fentanyl on her. Um, she completed the 90-day program and now has transitioned back to working at the local courthouse, and is cleaning up at nighttime, and is working her recovery program, and is like living her life, and texted my coworker Phil that she's so appreciative of the Leti program, and it saved her life.
and that video, that was it CBS News?
Yeah,
Um,
Madeline Wright, I believe, did the story on CBS News, I think. Yeah.
oh, and you said that she was level 2, um,
Correct.
and level 1 was the first contact. Is that the first contact, and level 2 is
So level one, it's called a track one. So track one
track 1? Okay.
is where there is no threat of arrest. So you mentioned a tool, and that's what we talk about. It's like the tool in the toolbox. You imagine. Let me just give you like a domestic that you mentioned police being social workers. We feel like we're a jack of all trades. We're mechanics. If your electricity goes out of your house, we'll do our best to figure it out. But therapist. So with a track one, know, it would kind of look like this, and this is kind of what we've seen. You go to a home on a domestic dispute call, and let's say the son of the family has picked up drugs again and is overdosed in the house or something. Um, right there, really, the police can't arrest anybody. We can't kick someone out of their own home. So if they don't want to go to like the local crisis center, we've really kind of run out of tools in our tool belt, right? But now we have another tool, and that tool is, why can we just get you to make the next right decision? Can you show
Mm.
can you show your family, you know, um, can you show your mother, who loves you more than anything, that you want to live? We can get you in a treatment center. You're going to have dinner tonight. Have breakfast in the morning. You don't have to worry about anything except you and getting yourself better. Um, we had Ridley Township. This is another track one. We had a person that attempted suicide. And
Mm.
the person had attempted suicide because they couldn't get into a treatment center. They had their bags packed and their insurance had lapsed. And
Oh, wow.
so, yeah, and so it was a really emotional scene for the police to be there and to see that this person was willing to end their life and die by suicide because they just couldn't get the help. They couldn't stop. And so we were able to get this person into the local crisis center, and have a doctor sign off that the suicidal ideations, or that she wasn't a threat to herself. And right there, MVP Recovery sat at the crisis center and got that person into treatment, and that person is sober and living a clean life today. So the track one
Great
is just
work.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing where, now police, I can tell you, when we walk into those types of traumatic scenes like a suicide, it wears on us. So to see that someone can heal and recover, it's a beautiful thing all around. Track two is where there's a threat of arrest, where if the person does not complete the program, the 90-day program, um, Delaware County will then file the charges. So, for example, the person that was on the news, she would have been charged if she didn't complete the program, but she did, and all charges were withdrawn, and she has a clean criminal record because of the hard work that she did.
That's excellent. Now, that is in Delaware County. Is this program being implemented any place else in the Delaware Valley that you know of?
Yeah, so it's a statewide program in Pennsylvania. It's just the counties have to adapt it.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, let's say Chester County or Montgomery County or Bucks County, their district attorney would have to adapt it, right, and or adopt it, and then their officers would have to get trained. We are just seeing great success in Delaware County because it's like the perfect storm. The police officers are ready and willing to have another tool in their tool belt,
Okay.
and myself and Phil are able to kind of go around and kind of explain both walks of life. Me with the therapy and law enforcement background, and my partner Phil with his background in recovery and being a therapist.
Now I have a question. I have two questions. One, how would just someone from the general public be able to connect? Because you said it's statewide. I'm in Philadelphia County. And this is the first time I've heard of this program. So how would I be able to connect with someone in Philadelphia to learn more about that?
Yeah, so we were up at Penn State. They had myself and my partner do a speech about why Delaware County is so effective with the Leti program and kind of what we're doing.
Mhm.
And the attorney general, or the attorney general that is running the Leti program, I guess one of the officers below the attorney general, she had pulled up a map, and it had all of the different counties in Pennsylvania that have adopted the Leti program. And I can't remember exactly what Philadelphia was. I can't remember if it was one of them that has or hasn't. But basically, it would have to be, I guess you could go on the website for the Leti program. It's a
Mhm.
very interesting to ask. And kind of, I guess, view it from there and see if your county is one of them and how to bring it to your county. I know it's a pretty extensive website. To be
Okay.
honest with you, we were so focused on Delaware County with the Leti program. We would love to move outside of Delaware County, but it's just right now we're just knocking down. There's so many small municipalities in Delaware County, and we're just trying to hit each one of them with these like little trainings to train our police officers about it.
Okay, thank you so much. This has been really helpful, and just to recognize that one of the things that you pointed out when you're looking at an 18-year-old or any individual who you find that's overdosed, and what has gotten them to that point, and there could be any number of grieving events. I just watched a video earlier today that someone was aged out of the foster care system, and they're just populations that are just vulnerable. And where do they turn and what do they do? And unfortunately, sometimes when people feel that they've exhausted whatever resources they have, they turn to criminal activity to survive, um, or addictions. So the work that you're doing is very, very valuable, and I thank you for it. Now, is there information that how people can contact you. Can you share that with our audience?
Sure. Yeah. First of all, my cell phone number, which is 610-755-5108. And then the MVP recovery is the phone number for that is 855 MVP 2410. Again, that's 855 MVP 2410 and MVPrecovery.org. MVPrecovery.org is the website. Yeah, so that would be the best ways to contact me. But one of the things I kind of pride myself on is just putting my cell phone number out there. Like, if we're gonna have a shift and change and impact our communities, like, we have to be ready and willing to just have these discussions, and really just you know might just take one person. You're in Philadelphia County and you're like, wow, this is a really interesting program. Like, how do we get the ball rolling? Like, how do we do this? A couple of years ago, there was a big push for therapists to be in the police cars with police officers, or the idea was being tossed around. And sure, there's maybe one day some sort of marriage of that. But the job we do is really dangerous, and you can tell sometimes, when you're sitting in here with your patrol car with a bulletproof vest, and it could be a very overwhelming moment for somebody, and we deal with some pretty hard charging traumatic events. And so really, the police, in my opinion, do a really good job, for the most part. But I find that the Leti program is like this perfect marriage of getting some mental health professionals on scene with our police officers.
Mm.
What MVP is able to do is they have workers that are called CRSs, Certified Recovery Specialists. So they're specialists in dealing with recovery. They're people that are in recovery themselves. So a police officer being able to call that line that we just called, the scene is safe, and there's someone that's struggling on drugs. I mean, imagine being able to have a CRS come on scene with a police officer and be like, hey, I was in your shoes not too long ago. Like, let's get you some help. So it's like a huge shift, this Leti program, and it's so multifaceted of, like, bringing just the word of recovery, and then for police officers, compassion, and another tool for us.
Yeah, yeah, that is, we don't work in silos. And when we work together, we're always better. We're always better. And um, I just, I just applaud you and the work that you do. And it is difficult out in the streets. It's difficult doing work. And just as a visiting nurse, I've seen experienced and seen some things, and to be out every day 24 hours a day, um it can take a toll. So it's the work that you're doing is extremely valuable, and you can't put a price on it. You're out there saving lives in more ways than one. And congratulations, and I look forward to following you more and seeing more of the great work that you're doing. Thank you so much. Thank you to our audience for joining myself and Officer Doyle. And always have your voice heard. Have a great day.